Well, at least the Blazers made it interesting. One game in the books. The Blazers lose to the Kings 124-121. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and what we saw from an opening night loss at home to Sacramento. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard, Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond, and you are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, and now also available on YouTube. We are up over 700 subscribers on YouTube, and we are pushing to get to 1,000 by Halloween. I'm recording this on the evening of October 20th, so by the time you're listening to this, less than 11 days to go, 10 days to go. It's coming up on us quick, and we can't get to 1,000 without your help. I can't get to my goal without your help. So if you're a new listener, smash that subscribe button on YouTube. If you're a longtime listener who hasn't subscribed on YouTube, do me a favor and go to YouTube right now and subscribe. Support the show. Support your boy. I would truly, truly appreciate it. Head on over to YouTube and smash that button for me. Today's show, let's talk all things Trailblazers season opener. A 124-121 loss to the Sacramento Kings in the first game of the season. Here's your fastest recap in the West. Here's what happened in case you missed it. Blazers looked bad early. Starters struggled in their first shift, but they were only down one at the end of the first quarter. But then a rocky second quarter, particularly close to the half, found themselves down 13 at halftime. And then the third quarter was a repeat of the first half. Starters got shellacked by the Kings. Starters, the bench came in and gave a little energy, but they didn't close the quarter well. They trailed by as many as 18 in the third quarter as Harrison Barnes got busy, and that 13-point lead was a 15-point lead by the time we headed to the fourth quarter. And they really didn't crack too much until about the 5-minute mark, down 13 with 5 minutes left. They made their late charge, pulled all the way within one on a late steal out of bounds as the King inbounded the ball. Damon CJ double-teamed Tyrese Halliburton, stole the ball from him, laid it in, down one. Blazers play the foul game. Committed an intentional foul, send Harrison Barnes to the free throw line. He hits two to set a career high to go along with a career high 8 made three-pointers. Blazers down 3. Who else gets the ball than Damian Lillard? Here's the problem. Dame's 0 for 8 at this point, and he dribbles into a 3 that would have made him 1 for 8. It was a decent look, albeit pretty deep, against Mo Harkless, former Blazer great. Dame's off. Buzzer sounds. Blazers are 0-1. That's your fastest recap in the West. Now let's dig into the nitty gritty. Here's sort of what we learned. I think we saw, there were probably more negatives for me watching this game. And this rarely happens to me, but I think the post game, talking with Chauncey Billups and Damian Lillard and Yusuf Nurkic, I was kind of convinced that this wasn't as troubling. Maybe that is like specifically me drinking the Kool-Aid, but let's dig into the bad and the good. We'll start with the good, and then we'll move on to the troubling, and then we'll kind of look ahead what we learned about Billups as a head coach and in one game, sample size 48 minutes of the Chauncey Billups coaching career in games that count. So here's the good news: the bench looks good. The Blazers have bench players that can contribute this year. They played their 9-man rotation. If you're a regular listener, you knew exactly what the rotation was going to look like. I've been telling you for almost a month now that I thought this was their 9-man rotation, and this is what it was. Dame, CJ, Norm, Rocco, and Nurk. That's Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, Robert Covington, Yusuf Nurkic starting 5. Your first sub off the bench tonight, Nazir Little at the 6-minute mark of the first quarter coming in to replace CJ McCollum. They staggered Dame and CJ a bunch, sliding Norm down to shooting guard, letting Nas play small forward. Then Larry Nance Jr. and Cody Zeller came in as a group, and then Anthony Simons was your 9th guy off the bench, and that was the groupings. A little bit more about that later in the show, but it was what we thought, and all 4 of those gentlemen who came off the bench, I thought, provided something that was pretty positive. Larry Nance wasn't very good in this game. He was part of lineups that played well, but I don't think he specifically played particularly well. So let's say that the bench played well. Nance showed some promise. He has some skills, but this was not a good Larry Nance game. This wasn't a game that you're like, oh, I see. But all the other guys, Ant and Nas and Cody, were exactly what you could want. Cody Zeller, for most part of the game, was the Blazers' best center. I was joking about it on press row, but like I was like, "Hey, the dude with the mask, Cody Zeller playing with a mask because he broke his nose. Like the dude with the mask is the Blazers' best center right now. The other big dude is just not playing well. Nurk kind of redeemed himself. I thought he played really, really well down the stretch. Smart, aggressive basketball down the stretch. But his first couple shifts, his first and first through third quarter was not very good as was the rest of the team. And Cody was really good. His energy changed the game. His rebounding, he had his first bucket as a Blazer was catching it out of a pick and roll. They double team the ball. He catches it in a pick and roll, and the kind of sees part, thinking that he's going to kick to the one of the wings, the two guys in the corners, and he just dunks, crams it easily. A center that dunks when he has the opportunity. What a special thing! I wish there was more of that. I bet you do too. So yeah, I thought Cody Zeller was good. I thought I thought Nas, who was the first sub off the bench, his first bucket is a Euro step on the left side, finishing with his right hand. I thought he looked good. He had some other energy plays, just chasing down rebounds and stuff. Energy was really what the Blazers needed. They were so sloppy early with the starters that having the bench guys come in and just kind of play with a little bit of recklessness, a little bit more juice, really kind of helped some of the sloppiness. Blazers were still really sloppy early in this game. First half, they were really, really careless with the ball in every type of way. Bad passes, dribbling off your foot, forcing passes that weren't there, throwing easy passes poorly, making harder passes and not simple reads, like every type of thing. But just the bench coming in, Zeller played with a ton of juice. And Nas played with a ton of juice. And Ant, as long as we're doing everybody's first basket, Anthony Simons' first basket, a sweeping hook across the lane. My goodness. I had the pleasure of sitting next to Jason Quick on press row in the arena tonight, and he said to me, "We've never seen that before." And I said to him through a mask, "Yep, I don't think we have." And if the translation through the mask is, "Yep, I don't think we have," because I don't think we had. Like that was a brand new bag. Baby's got a brand new bag for Anthony Simons, that sweeping hook, and they just played well. This wasn't like set the world on fire, and even if you look at the box scores for these guys, it wasn't like these weren't life-changing moments off the bench. Like Nazir Little finished with 7 points and 3 boards, and shot 3 of 5. Cody Zeller 5 points, 6 rebounds, and assist, a steal, and a block in 19 minutes. And Simons with 11 and 4 dimes. Like he had a really nice game. But this wasn't like you're not like. I mean, I guess 11 and 4 from Anthony Simons is like worth noting. Like put that one, mark that down. That's like a really dependable game off the bench. But this isn't like, it's not going to make Sports Center. This was just solid bench play. I think that's undeniably good. There were other bad things. We'll get into them in the second segment. But real quick, like I thought the other positive. So the bench playing well is a positive. The Blazers haven't had this kind of useful depth. Larry Nance didn't play well, but there were moments where you could see that he can be useful. Just his ability to play defense is useful. Like he's got a little bit of juice there, and the Blazers could really use some of that defense. We'll talk about that in the bad segments coming up next. But I thought the way the Blazers played in the last 6 minutes of this game was the part of like what you got to classify as good. They just played at a level, like I don't want to chalk it all up to energy, because I think some of the energy that they used in the middle quarters was just shitty energy. It was just you play hard, but you play hard in the wrong way. That's still playing hard, right? Like if you can try, but if you're trying to do something that isn't the plan or not executing the plan properly, the effort is wasted. So it wasn't all just effort, but I thought they were just sharper and more physical, and really brought it in the last 6 minutes, and like showed that they can be sort of capable of ratcheting up a little bit. And I thought that was promising. The last 6 minutes, you kind of saw like not like what this team can be, because they were down 18 to the Kings and had to freaking rally back from down 18 and down 13 with 5 minutes left to make this a game, and they made it a game, and the Kings gifted them some things along the way. But like, I think the last 6 minutes, if you're pointing to like, hey, hey, this could be this could be something that is meaningful for us. I thought there was some positives to take away, albeit that is some rose-colored glasses, which I'm not digging in too deep, because play hard in final 6 minutes of game you're losing is not exactly a positive headline. It's a necessity, right? Like, it's a necessity. You would like to see that sort of the way they played, maybe show up at any other point in the first 42 minutes of the contest. Here's a positive that Yusuf Nurkic said that is a negative, and we're going to talk about it in the second segment. Nurk, in his post game, if you're a longtime listener, you know that I kind of think Nurk's quotes are, I find them not super useful, because I feel like a lot of times he's trying to say the right thing as opposed to say the thing he truly feels. And so I'm like, it's like I just don't take too much from it. But he said something I thought was really interesting, and I want to give him credit for saying something I thought was really interesting. Ask about like his positive takeaways. He said one of the positive takeaways was that they can see what they did wrong on defense. They're able to just lean into what they did wrong on defense. They're able to have put it on film, know what they did wrong, and be able to commit to correcting those mistakes. And he highlighted that as a positive, is the opportunity to improve their defense. That's an optimistic read from Yusuf Nurkic. I think the defense was part of the bad parts. It was part of the problem. Let's talk about that in the second segment. We talked about the good. Now let's lean into a little bit to the bad here in the second segment. But before we do that, let's talk about McDonald's. This episode of Locked On Blazers is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family come to connect, a place where classmates can meet up for study group, knowing they'll have dependable Wi-Fi and endless supplies of fries and McFlurries. Win or lose, it's a place where teammates, competitors, the home team or the away team can come to recharge. It's the place you always look forward to stopping on a long road trip to refuel. Listen, if you haven't played a basketball tournament and stopped late at night and gotten way too many McNuggets, me and you aren't the same. That is a that is a classic youth basketball middle of the day or late night on the way home, a fueling spot. McDonald's, many McDonald's in North Chapel Hill has saved me on my trek home. So here's what you should do: you should head over to your local McDonald's right now and refuel and reconnect. Did somebody say Locked On Blazers watch party? Ba da ba ba ba. I'm loving it. All right. So we talked about what went right for the Blazers against the Kings in their season opening game. Let's shift a little bit to what went wrong. More went wrong than went right, but let's be honest. The Blazers starting group looked bad early. I think that's a real problem. It's not something that I think is going to be a big issue going forward, but it's undeniable that there was a problem in this game. Like, sort of like the big picture thing that went wrong is the defense, and I want to talk about that too. But like, there's some other stuff that I think is before we dig in deep to the defense, like the things that are also problematic. I didn't think the Blazers got up enough threes early in this game. They ended up shooting 35, but a lot of those came late in the scramble. They attacked the rim a bunch. They crushed the Kings in paint points, dominated at paint points. But this was, I think they left some points on the board by not shooting threes. And the Kings were raining in threes. And some of the difference in this game was just Harrison Barnes hit 8 3-pointers, and Damian Lillard went over 9 from 3. Rashawn Holmes made 1 3-pointer, Damian Lillard 0. That's bad news. Fast break points, Blazers outscored 20-2 in fast break points. The Blazers are never going to be a team that runs. As long as Damian Lillard's on the team, they're not going to be a team that runs. Yusuf Nurkic, Damian Lillard, that combo's not going to run. They can be a really good half court team, but like, they need to get some transition opportunities. They can't get crushed there. That's an issue. So I think those are two big ones, like, for me. But the biggest problem in this game, early turnovers, particularly. But the big problem in this game was defense. They just couldn't stop. They couldn't stop the Kings, and it's not a surprise. The Blazers were a bad defensive team last year. They looked like a bad defensive team for almost all of this game too. Let's talk a little about that. Let's talk about what the bad defense looks like. Some of it is basic stuff. They got beat down the floor 3 times after a make. De'Aaron Fox grabbed the ball, ran into the paint, stopped the ball in transition. Simple stuff like that. They they didn't weren't like didn't force a ton of turnovers on their own. They only had 13 deflections in this game. They weren't. That's courtesy of NBA.com's tracking, so those numbers might not be exact, but like this wasn't they didn't weren't slapping the ball around, forcing a ton of turnovers and getting out on the break. They gave up too many threes. They gave up too many looks to Harrison Barnes, and it kind of starts. And this is getting back to the use of Nurkic point that I closed the first segment with, is like they weren't good at the point of attack. And Yusuf Nurkic said that it was a positive that they were able to sort of um, identify and diagnose exactly what went wrong with the defense. He sees that as a positive that comes away from this game because they didn't play well and now they have it on film and they've got 81 more of these bad boys. But I asked Nurk specifically, and I asked Chauncey Billups about this too, because I was kind of trying to dig into the X's and O's on the defense so I could share it with you here. That's what I want my role to be when I'm covering these games, is kind of bring you a little closer to what the guys wanted to know about this type of thing, or what they felt from the type of things we want to know, rather, is kind of what went wrong. And I thought Chauncey Billups made 2 interesting points, and then we'll get to Nurk. Is that so? Billups said that he felt that the team was overhelping a little bit, and that would have been my observation as well. Is that I felt like when they would come over and help to the ball, the Kings were able to manipulate, see the help coming all the way to the middle, and then swing it to the weak side. Somebody scrambles, you make one more pass, you get them in a scramble, one more pass, and it's a wide open 3. So some of it is just as simple as just overhelp. And then the other thing he said was interesting is he used KYP, which is a coaching term I love. KYP is know your personnel. And what he meant specifically there is that when Harrison Barnes has hit 5 threes, he's going to put up a couple more. The dude's hit 5 threes. His 7th 3-pointer is a great example of this. The ball goes into the corner to De'Aaron Fox. He's got the ball in the left corner. De'Aaron Fox has a man immediately in front of him, I believe it's CJ McCollum. Then Yusuf Nurkic has come all the way. He's at the low block in front of the rim, right? And so that's 2 people between him and the basket. And Robert Covington is all the way at the nail. He's fully at the nail, which is the center of the free throw line. There's a nail in there in case you check it out next time you're in a basketball court. It'll be there. He's all the way at the nail. So that's 2 feet in the paint, and the far corner guy is also pulled all the way in. I believe it was Norman Powell, but it might not have been. But as my recollection is, it's Norm, and Norm's all the way pulled in. He's not all the way in the paint, but his hips are facing Fox in the corner. That's 8 eyeballs on him. Dame is kind of he's 1 pass away at the wing. He's not facing Fox because he's guarding his man, but that's 8 eyeballs on Fox. All your hips turn toward Fox, and 2 guys with their feet in the paint, another person guarding the ball. And what Fox does, he takes 2 dribbles to the middle of the court. The help comes to contribute, or to towards the foul line, takes 2 dribbles. Help comes to contain, throws it to Harrison Barnes, who steps into a wide open 3, his 7th of the game. This is emblematic of what the Blazers' problem was in this, is that actually that's probably staying within scheme. Load up to the ball, show bodies, rotate all the way over hard, commit to the rotation, show him and build that wall. But that's the KYP that Billups is talking about. The dude on the opposite wing from the ball has made 6 3-pointers. He was 6 of 8 from 3 at that point. Harrison Barnes is on pace, on his way to a career night. You can't help that much. And Billups said this, and I thought this was really, really, really insightful, and really, it was refreshing to hear him say, it's like at some point, the rules have to change because you got a shooter now. You got a hot shooter, and you have to break the rules, and you have to stay closer, and you have to stay more attached. And if that means breaking the larger scheme, well, now the scheme has to adjust because you have to adjust on the fly to that opponent. Billups said they didn't do that well, and I thought that was really refreshing because that was kind of the observation I had, and to hear Billups call that out specifically is really meaningful to me. Can the Blazers correct that? No, but I thought them being able, I mean, not no, but I have some skepticism over like them sort of fixing this overnight, but like being able to diagnose that before they watch film, before they get in there, like that was meaningful to me. And then on to Nurk. This is the one of the sort of One of the other insightful things that Nurk said is that I asked him kind of about that, of whether it was overhelping or what he thought it was going to be on defense. And he said that the number one thing is that they have to contain the ball better. And Billups mentioned this too. And he said it starts with me at the five. Like if I'm going to be at the level, if I'm going to come out high on defense to stop the ball, I got to stop the ball. Because a lot of times you come out on defense and you kind of show a little. He shows halfway, like a soft show, shows his body, and then tries to get back to his man who's in the paint. And that sort of in between time, as he's recovering and the guard's recovering, De'Aaron Fox or Tyrese Halliburton, whoever it is getting 2 feet in the paint. You get 2 feet in the paint, other people have to help. Straight line drive, one pass is a three, because if there is no resistance at that point of attack, you let them get into the paint. The help comes. It's simple. Basketball's easy. So the Blazers have to make it less easy. And I think, like, the bad part of this game, right, is that the defense looked bad and they were down, trailing early. They gave up 60 points in the first half. They're down 18 in the third quarter. They let Harrison Barnes get loose. They let him get loose again. Then they let him just stay loose because, screw it. Why not? But like the positive, and this is to Nurk's point, is that they were able to sort of quickly say, this is where it went wrong. And like I said, do I have a lot of confidence in them fixing this quickly? I do not. But I think it was refreshing to hear them quickly diagnose it. It was refreshing to hear both Chauncey Billups and Yusuf Nurkic to say definitively, like, we need to play better, but we need to do this specific thing. We need to contain the ball better, and we can't overhelp when someone gets hot. Like, those are specific, fixable. That is an address. Like, you want to put an address on it, those are addresses. They're not names. There'll be names in film. Hey, Nurk, contain the ball better. Hey, Rocco, you can't help that much. I thought Rocco had a tough night trying to check Harrison Barnes. I thought his closeouts were bad. I thought he just didn't have a good night. And if he's one of the Blazers' best defensive players, if he has a bad night, it's going to be tough for everybody. And then, despite all this, despite a terrible defense for three and some change quarters, despite all that, the Blazers they're in it. Despite them, I thought they gave away a lot of points inside. Nurk had a brutal finishing night, and yet he finished with like 20 and 14. He looked pretty darn good, like in the box score, right? But it doesn't feel as good. CJ ends up with 32, 4, and 5. But if you watch the game early on, CJ looked terrible, and then he's pushing up towards 20 points. But he just had some brutal decisions and some brutal shots. And late in the game, there was a late sequence late in the game where CJ McCollum is driving down with under a minute. Blazers down 3, and he drives to his left and tries to draw a foul and puts up a crazy shot. It is. And Billups said admitted that it wasn't a good shot afterwards. And it's just, sometimes it's just that simple. Is like, they played poorly and they gave themselves a chance, and a couple missed shots here in the final 3 minutes are the difference. CJ misses that shot there. And then there was another crucial sequence that I think was in some ways not emblematic of the game, but certainly one of the deciding moments in the game. 2 minutes to go, Blazers down 3. They get, a pretty darn good look from deep. Like, this is Damian Lillard sidestep 3. He pump fakes, sidesteps, clean look, right? Brick, his 8th miss, 0 for 8. Nurkic, huge rebound. Comes down with the ball, swings it back out to Norm. Norm steps into a deep but clean catch, hips towards the rim when he catches it. It's one of the best threes you'll get in the sport. Clangs off the back rim. Norm had just hit a 3 on the previous possession. He got another good look at it. You could tell by his body language he thought it was going in. Doesn't go in. Blazers come down. They actually, Norm committed a foul in transition. Chauncey Billups challenges the foul, and it was an unsuccessful challenge. I'm using quotes on that one, but it turned out that it was the foul was on the floor. It wasn't a shooting foul. They'd called it an and one. It was a nonsense and one call. Billups gets his first challenge right, even though it was a fail, but he got it. It worked out for him. And it ended up being unsuccessful, but it was exactly the outcome he wanted, right? They called the foul on the floor, and the Blazers play pretty good defense, and yet the ball swings to the corner after 20 seconds of good defense, and Harrison Barnes hits a 3 from the corner, and the Blazers are down 6. It's as simple as that. They needed one more rotation from Terrence Davis to Harrison Barnes to stop a corner 3, or they needed to stop the ball to avoid getting caught in those rotations. And on the other end, they hit either of those threes, the game's tied anyways. The Kings are probably taking a timeout. Like as poorly as they played, the game was still in the balance there at the end. A couple more sort of thoughts. I want to close the show with a couple more thoughts on what we saw in this game. We went a little long on the defense stuff, but to me it was interesting. So let's come back in third segment. A couple more notes from this game. But first, do you want to know what makes LeBron James King James? It's sleep. That's right. Sleep is his superpower. That's how why he's so darn good in year 17 still. Even in game one where the Lakers lost, they didn't lose because of LeBron. He looked fantastic. And that's because he's getting that sleep that he needs using Calm, the #1 app for sleep and meditation, which is teamed up with LeBron to help activate the power of sleep. Both Calm and LeBron know that your mind is like any other muscle in your body, but you don't have to be a world champion to learn how to train it. Calm can help you train your brain so you sleep better, reduce stress, and perform at your best. Just like NBA stars, just like Dame, just like LeBron James, just like anybody who's sleeping well and treating their brain with the respect it deserves. Sleep is critical. It's a critical part of your mental fitness routine. Listen, getting a good sleep and finding time to rest is one of the most valuable things you can do for your body. So head to calm.com/lockedonnba for a limited time. You'll get 40% off a Calm premium subscription. With Calm, you have access to nature scenes and so much more, like sleep stories, meditations. You can be ready for any challenge that life throws you. So, for a limited time, my listeners can join LeBron and me, quite frankly, a user of this application, on Calm to get a 40% discount, a Calm premium subscription. That's calm.com/lockedonnba. Unlock content to help you focus, ease stress, and sleep better. Get started at calm.com/lockedonnba. That's calm.com/lockedonnba. Today's episode is also brought to you by Sweat Block. That is, listen, it's the #1 selling product on Amazon.com and in the antiperspirant category. And that's because it works. It stops excessive sweat for up to 7 days. It's doctor created and doctor recommended, and it's more powerful and more effective than your leading clinical antiperspirants. Here's how it works. You take one of the Sweat Block wipes. Sweat Block also has deodorant and other antiperspirant products, but you take one of these Sweat Block wipes. This is what I want to tell you about today. You wipe it where you know you're going to sweat, whether that's in your underarms, your back, your neck, wherever it might be. You know if you're a heavy perspirer where it's going to be. Wipe on a Sweat Block wipe. Go to sleep, wake up, take a shower, and go about your day with confidence, knowing that perspiration will not be a problem that day, guaranteed. In fact, the dry shirt guarantee is what Sweat Block is giving you to keep you dry or get your money back. So go to sweatblock.com right now. Use that promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get 20% off. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. We're still listening to Locked On Blazers. We talked about the good, talked about the bad. Now let's get some news and notes, or just some notes, emptying the notebook. Couple things. Damian Lillard played 40 minutes in this game. That's too many. Some of the talk this offseason was how Dame was going to play less. I've kind of poo-pooed that idea, thinking that he'll play about 34 minutes a night, down from 35 and a half. Like he'll play a minute less. Maybe he'll play 35. Like he'll be right in that range. 34 to 36. It's just what he's going to play. It's about what stars play in the league. That's how much he's going to play. Tonight he played 40. Chauncey Billups was asked to explain this, and his answer didn't really make sense to me. He was like, entering the fourth quarter, he had played 31 minutes, and I tried to hold him out as long as I could, and then I had to bring him back at the 9-minute mark. It wasn't when he brought him back that was the problem. It was the fact that entering the fourth quarter, he'd played 31 minutes. He played 20 in the first half. You play 20 in the first half, you're set up to play 40. You need to play 18 in the first half. That's the math. 2 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up over time. It's too much. Dame admitted that he felt like he played 40 minutes after the game. It's too many minutes. Too many minutes. Simple as that. He needs to play less. He doesn't need to play crazy less. I'm not asking Chauncey Billups to play Dame like 10 minutes less, but he needs to play 35 minutes. Like you need to steal him 2.5 minutes in each half. You got to figure it out. The other thing in the sub pattern that I noticed was it felt like Chauncey Billups was really quick in his rotations. Felt like he didn't stick with a group. Like in the first half, Naz came in. early at the or Nas came in first at the 6 minute mark, and then Zeller and Nance came in at about the 4.5 minute mark, about 90 seconds later. That's fine. That's like a normal sub rotation. But then that group only played together until the 2 minute mark, and then they brought back in Ant and CJ, and that was, and it was going to be okay. Now we're going CJ plus bench, but then they opened the second quarter with Rocco back in the game in Nance's spot. So Nance he only had a 4.5 minute shift, 4 minutes and 20 seconds, 4 minutes and 24 seconds, according to my notes. Like that's just not long enough. He needs to play more. In the third quarter, I thought it was the same thing. I thought the subs were a little too fast. Like I didn't think like any 5 man group got a chance to play together, find a groove, and go. It was kind of mixing and matching. Some of that is just first time head coaching stuff. Substitutions are you just don't have many cracks at them, and developing a strong rotation, a sense of rotation, is different than a feel. And a feel can be, hey, Nurk, go get him. Hey, Larry, go get him. Hey, Rocco, go get him. But it's like if you've only given that group 2 minutes to play together, they maybe only had 4 possessions together on offense. I thought the rotations were too short, too quick. Not something I asked Phillips about, because let's just see if he does it in another game, and then it's like, okay, this is a trend. If it's like a 1 game thing where he screwed it up, it's like this isn't something I want to bang on him for like game one of his tenure, but that's I didn't like that, quite frankly. I wish he had. I wish he'd just given guys longer stints. I thought that was notable. The other thing is that we saw that when Nazir Little came into the game, he got some primary assignments, and I thought that was really, to me, that's really intriguing, because he comes in the game and he checks De'Aaron Fox. That's not just like, Nas, you're going to play real minutes. That's like, Nas, you're going to play real minutes and this real role as someone who's going to have to defend on the wing. I thought that was meaningful. Another thing that was in my notes was that when the game was on the line, Dame and CJ weren't off the ball. This wasn't the off ball experiment stuff. I don't think they did it a ton, but Ant played off the ball a little bit, or on the ball a little bit, and let both guys play off the ball. He played with both. Like, we saw all the groupings. We saw all 3 guard groupings, and we saw all 3 big man groupings, or all 4 big man groupings. At each, Rocco played with Nurk. Rocco played with Zeller. Nance played with Nurk, and Nance played with Zeller. Like, we got to sort of mix and match those groupings a little bit. We saw 1 possession of Nance at center on defense at the end of the game, just in a foul situation. I'd like to see them go small, but Zeller played well. It's hard to want to take him off the court. That's notable. But at the end of the game, we didn't get a ton of movement sets when the game was sort of on the line. The ball maybe moved a little bit more, but they went back to running pick and roll and getting and doing what they do. And I think this is notable, because for the idea that there's like this like massive offensive overhaul coming, I don't think that's necessarily the case. They're doing different stuff, using Nurk at the elbows, running a bunch of action where they set 2 screens away and you read off those screens, running stuff where guys, start off the ball, letting Dame and CJ sort of dictate from which side of the floor to go to start things, and not starting everything in the middle of the court and running that full spread pick and roll. But when the game was on the line, when it was the last 5 minutes, it was Dame and CJ running high pick and rolls, and a bunch of CJ operating, because he was really good in this game. He was the one who had it going. Dame didn't. This is sometimes it's like that. Dame, 0 for 9 from 3. There's not going to be a lot of nights like this, but this was a night when he didn't have it going. The other note I am totally comfortable with Dame taking the last shot. 100% and totally comfortable. There's no hesitation in my mind. He's a better creator of his own look from deep than CJ is. If it was a 2-point game, I might say give the ball to CJ, because he has more variety in his mid-range shots than Dame does. Dame's still a better scorer late in games, so I would kind of always lean towards him, right? But Dame from deep he's better at getting his shot off. He has deeper range, so he can get a shot off from further away. He's just stronger at getting loose and shedding guys. 0 for 8, whatever. This is you trust him. So if like I have zero qualms every single time I'm going with Dame. Maybe I'm talking to a straw man. Maybe no one thinks like you go away. He's ice cold, so you go somewhere else. But to me, that's you got to you kind of just the way the team is built and the way the team it believes in itself. Dame has to take that shot, and you have to live with him making it. And he talked at length about the willingness to miss it, and also as well as how he's not going to let this. In the past, he may have let a bad shooting night stick with him. But over the last 3 or 4 years, he's really learned to let these bad shooting nights go so they don't turn into bad shooting streaks. Like he said when he gets in the car tonight, I like this. That he'll probably when he's telling us in the post game press conference, but he's like, when I get in the car tonight, I'll probably have a moment where I'm like, damn, I took 9 and I missed 9. He's like, but then nothing's gonna nothing. He won't let it drag beyond that. He's not gonna like go to the practice facility and get 1,000 threes up. And in the past, he might have like said, okay, I'm gonna like I want to see the ball go in. I'm gonna go get 1,000 makes in. Like he's a dude who works, so that isn't wild for him. He's gonna go through his normal shooting routine. He's gonna go to the cold tub in the steam room and do what he does, and then go home and spend time with his kids. Like he's not going to fret. And I think like I said, like I think there was more bad than good in this game. But afterwards, hearing the way Billups and hearing the way Dame and hearing the way Nurk talked about it, I was more like, oh, this team's vibe is off and it's bad and this is a wreck. Watching the game and then hearing them talk afterwards, sometimes there's just like I think the way Billups is like he is just very even keel and he is always going to just exude this level of calm and confidence. Like I think that's his vibe and that's what he's going to always try to put off. And maybe the times are going to maybe it's going to get there's going to be a bunch of losses in a row and that'll be a little bit off-putting. But between him and the way Dame is after losses and the way Dame was after this loss, not mad. He wasn't mad. He was just like, yeah, I wish I had made more threes because we would have won the game. We didn't play well, but if I hit 4 threes, it's a totally different game. If I make 3 out of 9 threes, it's a totally different game. And I thought their sort of comfort and Nurk saying that because sometimes after losses, Nurk can just be he can be a mess. Like he's an emotional guy, and sometimes he's just pissed, and you see it. And he didn't seem mad in that way. He didn't seem ruffled in that way. Maybe it's a product of it being game one, but it was to me their sort of demeanor and my read on their demeanor as authentic made me feel like this isn't a reason to freak out. Now, the next game is against the Phoenix Suns, who are really good, and they might thrash the Blazers, and then there might be some reason to freak out. But like, I thought there was more bad than there was good in this game, and yet I don't come away. I don't come away like smashing the panic button. I come away thinking like the Blazers bench looks like it can help. On a night where Dame shoots better, they'll get there. And if they just don't have the third quarter that they had, they're in a much more competitive position. I thought the first 3 quarters were just bad news. But I thought the third quarter was particularly just like didn't give themselves a chance to get back in the game and made the fourth quarter too hard of a charge. When you make it too hard of a charge, you need too many breaks, and they didn't even they got all the breaks they needed. They just missed a shot at the end. But I come away from this not panicked at all. I come away from this thinking like, yeah, they didn't look good. Yeah, there was some first-time coaching stuff from Chauncey Billups that I didn't like. But for the most part, this was a loss that'll happen against a Kings team that shot pretty well from 3. I'm not going to freak out, but admittedly, I'll say it for like a 7th time here. More bad than good, absolutely. More bad than good in game 1. But I'm not. There's no red light on here yet. This is we're still cruising ahead, and we'll see what the Blazers look like in games to come. Friday show, do not miss it, because you know who's joining the show is Nazir Little. Portland Trailblazers own Nazir Little is going to join me on the show. So you're going to want to come back on Friday. You're going to want to be here, and you're going to want to tell your friends to be here that Nas is going to be on the show. It's 2 Tar Heels chopping it up. So make sure you come back Friday show. You can watch it on YouTube. I'll have video of our chat in Friday show. So make sure you see that. We'll also look ahead to the weekend's game, and it should be a ton of fun. So tell your friends about this. Tell your friends to subscribe on YouTube. We can't get to 1,000 subscribers without Halloween, without you. So if you're listening to this and you haven't subscribed, go to YouTube right now and subscribe. I would really, truly appreciate it. Tell your friends, about this podcast and tell them they can get it wherever they already get podcasts in addition to YouTube. Just search Locked On Blazers. We'll be right there waiting for you. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.